Okay, now you're on Facebook, so
Okay.
keep it clean.
Yes, sir. Just yelling in Sheriff Wheeler's ear to be good.
Okay. Put this on vibrate.
Okay. Anything in particular you'd like to tackle?
I've got an opinion on everything.
All right, good. I figure.
Help us help others. Treasure Coast Community Health.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Do you got
Okay,
anybody else
we're in
coming
local spots, so after the open, Joseph, I'll call like this to you. Okay?
See, a canine was lost yesterday or the day before.
Huh?
Canine, Sebastian Canine,
What about it?
found it dead in the car. Said overheat. I guess they don't know. I haven't seen the article in the paper. It's all hearsay. But I know that one of the officers lost his canine.
Oh.
Paper said that he forgot it was in the car when he was in court, but I don't personally. I don't buy that. I don't know what the story is, but I've heard they have trouble with the alarm system. You're supposed to, when the car overheats and shuts down, the windows are supposed to come down. If the temperature gets too hot, the doors are supposed to pop open.
Really?
I know they've had trouble with that, and I don't know if that's what happened or I have no idea. But
Everybody's willing to throw this horrible story out there and convict people before the evidence is gathered.
Yeah. When they just lost our dog Easter
Sunday.
It's amazing how attached you get to.
They're an extension of the family, period.
Yeah.
I had puppies as a kid, and when I was getting my bachelor's degree, I did a whole research on it. This is before animals were like $1 billion industry in the U.S. And I read it. It's like back then, the studies were saying that people that were empty nesters had their animals, and they just absolutely considered them a child.
Well, I was surprised. I mean, I had uncontrolled emotion.
Yeah.
I mean, it surprised me, quite frankly. I mean, he got hit by a car and got killed.
Jeez.
And I was like,
Okay, stand by in the studio. We're in the open.
it surprised me.
Yeah.
My reaction.
We all felt the same way when my little Timmy. We felt the same way when our Yorkie Timmy got hit by a car. Great morning, Vero Beach. This is Joe Sempre Vivo, and I'm filling in for the mayor of the airwaves, Rhett Palmer. He's going to be gathering some stories for us, and he'll be calling in, and he'll be telling us his stories as well. Not today, he won't be calling in, but he's going to record some great stories for us and bring them back to you so you can listen. In the studio today, we have Sheriff, County Commissioner, entrepreneur, Gary Wheeler.
All has been positions. Good morning, everyone.
We've known each other. I remember I went to your fundraiser. You had it at the park. It's funny. You called it a fundraiser, but it was a big free event. You had hot dogs for everybody, and I was barely living. I think I was living here for a couple of years, and I got invited, and it was by Riverside, by the fire department over there, and that was the first time I met you, and you were so welcoming, and I've never forgotten that.
Well, that's what you do when you're looking for votes.
Yeah, you did ask me. You said bring all your family to the polls, and you said if I was a Democrat, I'd tell you to vote twice, but I'm not. So. So now you've always been involved in community service and sacrifice a lot. A lot of people don't look at it that way when you're working as law enforcement, but it is a giant sacrifice. And with the shift changes and all the odd hours and everything else. And then politically, to become sheriff of Indian River County and then later county commissioner. So let me ask you this. Do you still have this massive passion to what's going on in our community and nationally? Do you just get hooked on following the news?
Yeah, I keep up on Facebook or with friends and stuff. I live in Tennessee now, and about what's going on here. I have not a clue what's going on where I live. And nationally, I watch that. My wife gets upset because I watch a lot of news. I watch CNN, I watch Fox, I watch NBC to find out what everybody's saying about everything, so you can kind of figure out what the truth might be.
Mm-hmm.
And but what you said earlier though about sacrifice, I never saw that. I'll tell you, I got out of high school. I went to work for Westinghouse Electric for a year in production, and quite frankly, that's the only job I've ever had.
Really?
Yeah, I loved police work. I loved helping people. I loved my donut shop. I loved being on the commission. I really enjoyed being sheriff. I love being in a position, and I enjoyed what I was doing. In fact, that's why I opened the bagel shop 3 years ago because I'm not cut out for retirement. I found out I retired twice, and I retired when I was sheriff, and then ran and for county commission because I wanted to be busy, and then retired from that. Went to Tennessee, thought I could do it now, and but anyway, got up there and got bored. So I called my son, who was a Sebastian police officer, to see if he wanted to come up and go into business. And we opened the bagel shop, Wheeler's Bagels, in Johnson City, Tennessee, just because I'm not. My hobby is people.
Yeah. Yeah. And how's he in transitioning into
Well, he's doing good. He likes it, and business is good. It's growing. We've been open 3 years. We've got a good, solid base, good clientele, and Johnson City is a great place. I mean, Tennessee is. It's amazing. The people up there are so friendly, helpful. I said, I've been up there 5 years now, and every time somebody's waved at me, they've used all 5 fingers. So it's not like New York and places in Florida.
Yeah.
It's you never get the horn, when you
Yeah.
it's just in fact very interesting. The Johnson City Police Department, they change shifts weekly. So the third Sunday, every third Sunday, we go in and open the shop for that shift. It's about 20 to 25 officers that come in the bagel shop about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning and do the briefing. We don't open until 7. So Eric goes in an hour early to get bagels out and stuff. So, and of course, a lot of the officers and EMS and stuff come by the shop just like they did with the donut shop. But the really neat thing is they come in, they have the breakfast, they do their briefing before they go on the road, and right after they do their briefing, they have prayer before they go on the road.
Wow.
And it's really neat. And we're in the Bible Belt up there, and people are just so friendly, so nice, so helpful, so courteous as a majority. I mean, it's not a hurry up and wait in a rush situation. Florida was a lot like that when I moved here back in 1970,
Mm-hmm.
and when I grew up in New York, it was a lot like that. But things have changed worldwide. But Tennessee's still stuck back a couple of generations, which is I like it, as a matter of fact.
There's something to say about stepping away from the technology and the fast pace. There's so many things you miss. There's this movie that I always I always reference, whether I'm teaching real estate at Indian River State College or in conversation, and it's a silly movie, but there's some really poignant points. And in one scene, Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson have they're all interns for Google, and the movie's called The Internship. And this kid is, he's a millennial, and he's glued to a cell phone, looking down at his cell phone. And Owen Wilson puts his hand under the guy's chin and lifts it up, and he said, "Just look around. There's a whole new world out there, And it's true. So many times in a fast-paced environment, whether you're on a cell phone or a laptop or speeding to work, whatever it is, you miss all the fine things in life. You know, the beauty, the nature, the enjoyment, the relaxation. Hey, look, and I'm just as guilty as any millennial out there as far as being a faster paced person, and just it's important for all of us to kind of have that Tennessean mentality, an old Florida mentality. Being more relaxed.
Yeah, I think it's everything. I've come to the conclusion in my old age and reflecting. Everything seems to be an evolution, and we will adjust. I believe whether we adjust good or adjust bad, I don't know. But it's like what you're saying. I think kids today miss out on a lot of socialization because of that. It's you can say as an example. I remember back when the saying was "set on it." I mean, that was a sarcastic reply. I set on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got to thinking, I was up in New Hampshire, someplace on the motorcycle years ago, and I'm walking out, and I had a sheepskin on my motorcycle seat, and an older couple walking out, and I said, "What's the sheepskin? What do you do with the sheepskin?" I said, "Set on it." And I got to thinking later, I hope he didn't think I was being sarcastic.
Right.
And that's the trouble with writing something without facial expressions and the sound of the voice and the tone. My wife can say just a minute, or she can say just a minute.
Right. Right. Inflection, tone, pause. Yeah. It's really true. In your with all your experience in your life, how did you get through like the challenging and difficult times? Because there's always some sort of pressure with work, high stress, especially in law enforcement. You see stuff that only people could imagine or never would want to imagine. How did you get through those difficult times mentally?
I think probably, I would guess probably family and faith. I think that I don't know if we're tested or what. Obviously as a fact, I don't know if God's real or not. I happen to believe he is, and I have faith.
Yeah.
But factually, can I prove it? No. Can I point to a lot of things in my life that I believe he had an interest in? Yes. And I said I've always said for years that when I die and supposedly or hopefully go to heaven, if it's there, and I believe it is, but I want to ask St. Peter, as they say, was this a coincidence or was this God's hand?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think faith, and I haven't been through an awful lot of trials and tribulations to say. We lost our first child at birth, which was devastating at the time. It was a stillbirth. But then later, when my son was born, I was my wife was in labor, and I'm in the waiting room, and a guy comes in, and he's in the waiting room, and he says, "Is this your first one?" I said, "No, it's my second one." And I'm holding back the tears, feeling bad and worried sick about this one. And he says, "How old was your first?" I said, "Well, she would have been, X number, 2 years old or whatever the time, year old." And then I said, "How about you?" He said, "No, this is our second one." I said, "Oh, how old's your first one?" He said, "Well, he would have been 5, but he was killed in an automobile accident. I lost mine at a stillbirth. His was lost in an automobile accident." And when you take those two things, it's like opening the door to say, let's put things in perspective.
Yeah.
And so there's always somebody better off than you, and there's always somebody worse than you.
Yeah.
And but I think things like that. The other devastating thing I had, which is a long story, but I was criminally investigated when I was chairman of the county commission by the Internal Revenue Service.
Really?
Yeah, they read me my Miranda warnings. Everything. They're very professional. 2 agents and very professional.
And I want to hear about this, and I know everybody else does. We are going to go to break, but after we come back, we're going to talk about the IRS and the criminal investigation. We'll be right back after this. Oh, wow. I'm going to go get some coffee. You want something to drink?
What?
You want something to drink? You stopped at Mickey D's for that?
Yeah, I love their coffee.
Yeah.
They got good coffee.
They really do. I really enjoy their coffee. I'm going to grab some coffee. 2 minutes? Yep. I'll be right back there, sir. He's on the cruise.
so blessed to have worked alongside the ARC this past year, and I hope to see you at this event for such a wonderful organization. Thank you.
Do you have experience in radio sales? We're looking for someone to sell advertising on our morning broadcast. Give us a call at 772-473-7777, 473-7777. Only experience need apply. Skin cancer is no laughing matter. You should have a full body scan every year at Treasure Coast Dermatology with Dr. Tim Ide. He's over on 37th. That's right. Take care of yourself, and your skin will take care of you. One of those secret restaurants. It's the CJ Cannons, the warm and friendly restaurant at the Vero Beach Regional Airport, where the only thing they overlook is the runway.
This is
You
Vero's
are
voice,
the
radio
served
show.
at this great restaurant, serving you from morning to night. That's right. Eggs Benedict.
Supposed to answer the phone, Vero's voice.
To prime rib at night, with hamburgers, patty melts, and a host of the usual luncheon offerings, served in a not-so-usual way. CJ Cannons, that's the place. There, overlooking the runway, is the friendly home-style restaurant with food and service that will make you come back asking for more. CJ Cannons, call them 772-567-7727. That's 567-7727. Better yet, go there. You'll be pleased. Here's Joel Molinari from Molinari Pool Service with an urgent message for you this month. Just make sure that your pool's protected. You've got anti-entrapment devices. You need fencing, netting, any sort of safety product around your pool. Give us a call at 778-2633 Molinari Pools. We want to help you out. Please, please, please be safe around the pool, especially this time of year. Let your friends know. Be safe around the pool. Always adult supervision. Nothing replaces adult supervision, but put the safety products in place. Go get Molinari Pool Service.
Minute and a half, Joseph.
We all have that moment of clarity.
I can bring it in for you once in a while. How do you like it?
Clear out the garage or attic. And
Put
finally
in there whatever you want.
Well, the Habitat Home Center Restore can help with that. You can donate if you want to.
Yeah, rejoin is a short rejoin. It's Rhett Palmer, then you gotta start talking.
When you're shopping for other stuff, be sure to check out the Home Center Restore first. You might just find the perfect sofa
1 minute.
or perhaps some lovely
I'll be
cabinets.
there, buddy.
It's
Okay.
always exciting. Home Center Restore, and the prices are great. So put the Home Center on your must-do list. To donate and to shop. And remember, when you shop or donate, you help Habitat provide simple, decent homes for families in need, right here in Indian River County. For your convenience, we're now open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're our newest one in Vero Beach, just
yeah.
north of 45th Street.
Less than that now.
Or call 256
Less than that.
222. Habitat Home Center is a not-for-profit.
15 seconds. 15. Woohoo!
And it's going to go Rhett Palmer, and then you go.
Great morning, Vero Beach. This is Joe Semprevivo on the Rhett Palmer Show, filling in for the mayor of the airwaves, Rhett Palmer. And in studio today, we have former sheriff, county commissioner, Mr. Gary Wheeler, and he's visiting us from Tennessee. And so before the break, we were talking about how you kind of compartmentalize and deal with stressors, as being in public office, sheriff, county commissioner. And then you mentioned that you were being criminally investigated by the Internal Revenue Service.
Yeah, that was, and I mentioned that because that was one of the milestone, whatever you want to call it in my life, that was very significant, very threatening, and very difficult to deal with, just like losing a child, or, not just, but anyway, a very serious situation, and something I found at the time. It was, they came in the office, identified themselves, they came under false pretenses. They were very professional, and they told me they were there because they thought I had evaded paying taxes, and said their intentions were to, basically me become an example and be arrested. I waived my rights. I talked to them, told them everything they wanted to know. It's a long story that I don't need to go into here, but the bottom line is it was all because of politics. An individual who, on the air publicly, I'll remain unnamed because this is my belief, and who was also in politics, turned me in anonymously, and they came and investigated me, and they staked my house out. They've done things.
What?
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean, they told me all this, and I agreed. I read the papers and stuff. But the bottom line is I hired an attorney who was a former prosecutor with the IRS, and in fact, a local CPA gave me his name. And I called him, and the first thing he said, if this is drug related, I'm not interested in representing you. And I said, well, sounds like you're an honest attorney. You'll work
Yeah.
fine.
Right.
Went down. I took Butch Redstone was my accountant. We took 7 years of everything in my financial history, both my corporations, everything down to him. It took a couple of months, and they went through everything, and I came out with not even 1 cent penalty. The whole thing was nothing. And then the neat thing is a year and a half, 2 years later, running for sheriff. Not only did the police chiefs in this community support me, but one of the IRS agents that investigated me called me up, and of course got my attention immediately because I knew who he was, but I didn't really know him personally. And I thought, yeah, what's this about? He said, no, this is social call. He said, because of my job, I can't put bumper stickers on my car, but I like some of your yard signs in front of my house.
Wow.
So anyway, that's what's wrong with politics. That's why a lot of good people don't get involved in politics. The first time I ran in 1982, there were rumors going around about me being involved in the drug trade. And of course, in 1982, the drugs were running like water. Almost dropped out of the race because I don't need this. And then I got irritated and I said, there's no way I'm dropping out.
Yeah, that was like the cocaine wars in Miami, right? In the 80s, 80s and 90s.
Oh, the import of drugs in the late 70s and through the 80s was phenomenal. I mean, a lot of it was coming in here, and a lot of local people were involved in it. And it's just, again, the evolution. And now they ship it over the border, put it in tractor trailers, and deliver it around the country like Walmart does.
Or use Uber.
Yeah.
Did you hear about the guy? He's using, it's not even funny, but he's using Uber to run heroin. So he calls, these people, if they just put energy into starting a company, a legitimate company, you know how successful these people would be? They would be like another Uber being created.
Oh, yeah.
But they're hiring people to get into Uber, bring in, I guess, suitcases or whatever it is of heroin, and that's their distribution network now. And the drivers of Uber have no idea what's going on. They're innocent people in the matter.
Well, you see that even in a local county jail. You get prisoners in there that are very, they're smart, and they're and yet if they would put that to a positive instead of a negative, they could be successful in anything they wanted to do. One of the footnotes, one of the cute parts to the IRS story is every time over the next year or two, I would get a call from Dorsky, who was the city manager at Indian River Shores. And of course, my secretary would put, to call him back, but she didn't say Indian River Shores. She said IRS.
Oh, jeez.
So, there were days you come in and immediately go, oh my God. So that's that's the lighter side of the story.
It's not a pleasant experience. And this is, when people doubted that Donald Trump has been audited every year, I was not surprised at all. And when you have a person running for president that has made it known that he wants to trim the IRS, you have somebody very opinionated who tweets every day, which I think his strategy is brilliant, going directly to the people with an unfiltered message.
I agree.
It's the only platform he can get out there without there being a filtration system. Even on Fox, there's always a filter. This is not newsworthy. Don't even play it. Or only play 30-second soundbite, not the 3-minute, whatever it is. So he's taken to this message, and he's a businessman, and he's been publicly outspoken for years, decades, and I could see him being the frequency of his audits. And the thing is, if you eliminated that pressure from a business person, they would be able to grow their businesses and be more successful. When we come back, we're going to talk some about local, state, and national politics. This is Joseph Ray Vivo on the Rhett Palmer Show. Yeah, so we'll
Very nice. You're clear. You're in news. Only 3 minutes though, and then spots.
Okay, I'm going to get my coffee.
Joseph, check that thing by your headphones. That's a grid for you for times.
Oh, boy, I love what you're doing. You are just on the ball.
I take care of my hosts.
Man, but what you did, like I noticed, just with I noticed this when I first came in, but then like how you're writing out those like little jokes and little tie-ins. I think that's really awesome that you're doing this.
Do you want those printed out? I didn't print them out because Rhett isn't here. So
No,
if you want them, I'll print them out for you.
No, I'm good. I think Gary and I are just winging it and having fun.
Did you read
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
the article Reisman had in the paper the other day about people getting arrested from other places at Grand Harbor and all that?
No.
Yeah, some person from California stole a bunch of gold. Some woman did something at school out there. And of course, the one that was interesting was the guy that shot.
I care about this show, so that's why Rhett always gives me good comments to other people. But
Yeah.
I care about putting on a quality show
You
on
do.
here.
Yeah,
You
Red
do.
told
You're
me
awesome.
that. Red's-
You're really awesome. And you know what? All the prior individuals in the past, they did a really great job.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
they
fine.
ran. But I like what you're doing. It's an awesome added touch. Very professional.
Okay, doke.
That's the ham radio operator.
Yeah, you were on the county commission, right?
Right, yeah.
How many years did you just get off?
No, I was on from 86 to 92 and I
Okay.
resigned, ran for sheriff, then I was sheriff from 92 to 2001,
Okay.
and then retired, got bored. In 2004, I went back on the county commission and then
I'm the
resigned again.
Public information officer for the Vero Beach Amateur Radio Club. So
Oh, okay, yeah, well, good.
keep things going here.
Where are you from originally?
Upstate New York.
Where
I
about?
was born and raised in Rochester, and I moved to Amsterdam, New York, for a young lady that I've been married 45 years to.
I had a couple of bad experiences in Rochester. I'm from Horseheads.
Oh, okay.
Alright?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one was a friend of mine
Okay. Watch the coffee cup in front of that.
married a girl.
Because I start that with a remote, that clock.
Oh, okay.
So if you put anything in front of it, I can't trip it.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll go back up. You have some problems in Rochester.
Pardon?
Some problems in Rochester.
Yeah, a couple of them.
Okay, so we'll talk about some national. Well, we can say local too. Talk about whatever you want
Yeah,
to.
I'm not really, well, yeah, I can, we can talk local, but I'm not up to date on a lot of stuff. I don't know what's going on legislative wise.
If you're looking for a church home,
I think what they're doing now is there's a bill, I think 616,
we are located
for the Senate that for concealed carry permit holders, that if they go to the courthouses throughout the state, they could turn in their firearm to the deputies working in the courthouse. I think that's the one of the newest things that they're trying to do.
Who's pushing that? Trying to get people to turn their guns in.
If you go to no, like if you're going to the courthouse to pay a ticket
Oh, you have a weapon.
and you have your
They'll hold
firearm,
it for you.
yeah, they'll hold it for you. I think that's what all the other concealed carry bills I haven't heard a thing about, and they were good ones. Carrying campus carry stuff like that.
I can tell you that when I was in law enforcement, for the most part, the only time I ever carried a weapon was a uniform.
You never carried on person outside of uniform.
Rare.
No kidding.
Now, I carry 100% of the time.
Is that because it was so much safer back then compared to now?
Yep.
So
You
you're
have
saying
nuts
you
running
do
around shooting people just at random because they wanted to.
Yeah, or
But
stabbing.
we got a
now.
real mental health problem in this country that's been ignored. And a lot of these people that are doing this have all kinds of problems. Some is maybe genetic, other is just the way they were raised. They temper tantrums, they've never been disciplined, they've never been held responsible for bad judgment or bad behavior, and by the time they are held responsible for it, it's serious.
Yeah. No, we should talk about that. The reality of it is, I don't hear socialists out right now talking about banning knives and automobiles. Because you just had people plowed down in one city and then stabbed on another college campus. And
Okay, this is the last spot, and then we got the open.
No, it's they're very inconsistent, and you can't. Conservatives you can discuss things with and debate. Socialists you can't. They just shut you down. They
Yeah.
don't want to hear it.
no,
It's generally, and there's conservatives like with that attitude, but I think they're fewer than I know. It's like both parties, as far as I'm concerned, suck. It's just that the Democrats suck more than the Republicans do.
yeah,
And I'm generalizing because there's a lot of good Republicans, and I'm assuming there's some good Democrats. But as far as the party and the leadership goes and what they do, it's all about winning. It's not about the American public or doing the right thing for the country,
yeah.
in my opinion.
No, I think you're spot on, actually. I mean, I think it's very frustrating. Great morning, Vero Beach. This is Joe Semprevivo on the Rhett Palmer Show. I'm filling in for the mayor of the airways. And in studio today, we have former county commissioner Gary Wheeler. And so we're going to talk about some maybe state, local, national politics, and maybe even have a debate or two. Who knows? So, Gary, you were saying when we were on break, we were talking first about when you were sheriff. Okay, explain to everybody when you were carrying a firearm as a sheriff versus now when you were in law enforcement versus now.
When I was in law enforcement, not only with the police department in New York, Ocala, Florida, even the sheriff, I rarely ever carried a weapon other than when I was in uniform, and things were different then. Right now, I, along with a lot of other people, carry a weapon frequently.
Yeah. And is that primarily because you've just seen a huge increase in crime? Is it the media and exposure and the access to every little inch of America now that we know what's going on?
I don't think so. I think one of the problems this country has been building for probably 50, 60 years, 70 years. We've gotten away from mental health, and I think there's two parts to this. I think. And I don't know. I'm expressing an opinion, but I believe that there's people that have mental problems that used to be helped and taken care of, or even in mental institutions because there were problems. And they come from medication, and a lot of people that take medication are okay, and then they stop taking the medication and they go off the deep end. So I think that creates a lot of this random violence. It's not so much the crime, burglarizing a building or whatever, although I think people are more prone today to use deadly force than they were in years gone by. But I think that's one problem. The other problem is it's just the way generally society has been moving. At what percentage, I don't know, but in the direction of people being raised today, getting participation trophies, not being challenged, not being disciplined, not suffering consequences for bad behavior or bad judgment.
So true.
And I think, again, my opinion, I think a lot of people grow up, become adults, and then they do something serious that gets them in trouble, and there is consequences. But that's something new to them. They haven't learned that they need to be held accountable because we don't hold people accountable so much anymore. Prison sentences, death penalty, many of these things have really, we've gotten so politically correct and so compassionate. When you're at a murder trial or a bad trial, and you see somebody, you get to hear their story, you don't necessarily get to hear the victim story.
Right,
And
exactly.
so you tend to sympathize with that story. A prime example of that I've used before is this program that's on TV now called The Americans. Takes place in the 80s when President Reagan was there.
I watch it with my wife.
And we watched that program, and who are you rooting for? The spies, the Russian spies.
Yeah.
Because that's where the story's focused. It's focused on them, on their family, on what they need to do. And life is like that. It's the person that you talk to that's left. If there's a murder, you get to hear one side of the story, and a lot of times you tend to sympathize with. I had a very dear friend of mine back when there was a guy shot and killed at a little gas station they had up in El Paso, and I'm going back, I don't know, 25 years ago. She was on the jury, and this was a kid, I don't remember now, 18, 19, 20 years old, shot this guy. He shot him in cold blood. Got the money and just killed him because he wanted to. But because of that, she just had a real problem convicting him because, he was a nice guy, and he just was confused and upset, and it was like,
Look, you nail it. First of all, you start with little kids, and you stop this T-ball crap where all kids are winners. And I've talked to parents about this, and they say, "Oh well, it's great. We don't want a lot of pressure, for the children with T-ball."
Pressure builds character.
What the heck are they going to do when they're in college, reading 600-700 pages a week, and they're taking all these quizzes and exams? And if they don't pass and they fail out of college, then their parents lose the money, or their student loan keeps on accumulating, and they don't get a job, blah, 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 blah. What are they going to deal with that pressure? They're going to go to oxycodone or, drug substance. So what you do is you train them from a little age to say, okay, there's a winner and there's a loser. Second place is a loser. First place is a winner. It's as simple as that.
Well, I had my first, I look back at how life has changed. First, teachers can't touch a child and discipline them today. I got slapped around plenty going through school, and for the most part, I had it coming.
Yeah.
But my first life's experience, I lived a half a block from my elementary school, so I'd walk to and from school. I'd go home for lunch.
Right.
My mother had this before cafeterias. My mother had a beauty shop in the front of the house. My mother had a great deal of common sense. And I went back from lunch one day, and it was the old schoolhouse with the windows open and stuff. It was in the spring. And when I went in, the wind caught the door and it slammed it hard. And then they had glass, and the glass didn't break. But anyway, the teacher was my first male teacher. He was looking out the window. He didn't see what happened, but the kids laughed that we're already back from lunch. And he turned around and saw that it was me that came in. He thought I slammed the door. And he came over and slapped me. Well, I took off running home. And he, like I said, he slapped me pretty good. And I went home and went to my mother's beauty shop, and she said, "Why are you back home?" And I told her what happened. And she said, "Well, you turn around and go back to school." I said, "But Mom, I didn't do anything wrong." And she said, "Well, that's one you got for one you missed. Now get back to school." There's a lot of wisdom in that.
Yeah,
life
seriously,
isn't fair.
I love that.
Tell a 16-year-old that's dying of cancer how life is unfair.
Yeah.
You just take what you get and you move on. These people that get a chip on their shoulder or feel like they're denied. And I think we have more and more of that today than we had in the past.
Well, look at the creation of the government bureaucracy, number one, and number two, the government social programs. And everybody thinks we're doing this great thing for people that are struggling. But the problem is we're creating a crutch and a cane for individuals by teaching them not to work, not to have individual responsibility. And by collecting these government checks without earning a penny of it. How many middle-class, hardworking taxpaying Americans today are working their tail off barely to pay a mortgage, barely to pay health insurance, if even that, and barely to buy food and provide for their family? But yet you have somebody never went to college, in high school, and high school dropout, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids, and they're collecting a check, WIC, food stamps, $52,000 a year in benefits when you add in HUD, electricity, and everything else.
I'm all for helping people that need help.
Me too.
I'm not for helping people with 2 points. One is, I've said for years with welfare recipients, if they're able-bodied and able to work, put them in a field from 8 to noon, let them dig a hole.
Yep.
From 1 to 4, let them refill it. If that does nothing else, it gives them incentive to look for a better job. And, it just, but it's just so frustrating with, there's so much, corrupt people taking advantage of the system. And anyway, it's a sad situation because a lot of people are in need. And I think one of the other problems is I think that today people have replaced God, for instance, for extra strength and looking for guidance for the government.
Right.
And the government may provide things, but don't be fooled for a second and think that anybody up there that passed these laws care about you.
Right.
Because they don't. They're doing that to win votes and keep their job and their power.
Well, look at what they did in these larger states like California. They passed laws that the welfare recipients living in the projects can't have firearms to protect themselves because they're federal buildings. They're HUD buildings, and they stated that for the state law that they're using state tax dollars, so therefore they're not allowing people to bring their firearms into their buildings.
Well, the more somebody gives you, the more control they have over you.
Of course.
Or you lose what they give you.
Right, exactly. And that's typical with federal and state government. One of the things I like to touch on is, we as just good Americans who care about our country, and even the Republican Party, because you said something interesting. You don't like Republicans, you don't like Democrats. They both kind of bite, and I think that there's a lot of legitimacy to that. I want to touch on some issues, but before we do, we're going to go to break. Call 772-778-3500, 772-778-3500. Let your voices be heard. You read it in Vero's voice, and now you can talk it on the Rhett Palmer Show. Be right back after this break.
Well, I say it's dead, getting old.
Why? What's
Well, I
old?
get a thought, and in 3 seconds it's gone.
Oh, that has nothing to do with age, buddy, because I forget all the time. So I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Well, I have so many great points I want to make. I can't remember.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's a lot to be.
What do you got? 5 kids?
Six now.
That's good.
Yeah, 6 now. There's so much stuff going on, and with the tax plan and with the way the federal government is being ran right now. I think there's also a lot
Right
of
now it's better than it's been in a long time.
It has. Well, to me, this is the best president we've had in 30 years.
Since Reagan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Reagan had his flaws. I mean, he
Show
expanded
a human being that doesn't.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm looking for what's going to be. I want to see progress. I want to see things actually being done. That's
It's not him, it's the Congress, the Senate.
and that's what we need to touch on because there's people like McCain and but
What my wife just said.
that's great. The camera's pointing at me.
She called me up one day. I don't know, 5 in the morning for the donut shop. I was just getting around to lunch. She got in early. She says, "Are you up?" I said, "Yes." She said, "You sitting down?" I said, "Yeah, why? What's up?" "I want to tell you something." I said, "Well, tell me." She said, "Well, I just want to make sure you're ready for it." I said, "What?" She said, "I'm pregnant. Our kids were teenagers." And I said, "Fantastic." I said, "That's great. Why would I be upset about that?" She said, "You had a vasectomy." And then she said April Fools.
Oh my God. Did you actually think she was pregnant?
Yeah, well, I took her at her word. I wasn't, thinking.
Yeah, I forgot all about the
vasectomy.
vasectomy.
15 years earlier, or whatever it was.
That's funny. Yeah, she's a kidder, huh? Yeah, I want to start getting people engaged. Hey, Mr. B,
Yes, sir.
the call in 778-3500, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm gonna try to start driving people to call in, see how many callers we can get.
That's fine. I'll be ready. And this is the last spot. Your short rejoin is next.
Great morning, Vero Beach. This is Joe Semprevivo filling in for Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the airways. And in studio today we have former sheriff, county commissioner, friend, donut lover, bagel lover, Mr. Gary Wheeler. Hey, so we were talking on break about some federal, like U.S. Congress and Donald Trump being one of the greatest presidents we've had in the last 30 years. I mean, he says what he thinks, he tweets about it, he communicates directly to the people, he's bypassing media, he's calling media on the carpet of how horrible they are, which none of our other presidents, Obama didn't have to, because he was praised on all the media constantly, even for the criminal things that he did while in office. But
I certainly think he has the potential to be one of the greatest presidents ever.
I think so too. What do you think?
From my perspective, as
right.
a fiscal conservative and a conservative.
Right. What do you think about our Congress, and what's the problem with Congress?
Well, obviously these are all opinions because I know very few of them personally, and but I can tell you, from my perspective, they want to keep their job. And a lot of the giveaway programs they do is just to keep a base and somebody happy to give money away so they can get votes. One of the things that Franklin Roosevelt said is that public employees should never unionize. And I agree with that. I don't care if you're police, fire, federal employees, state employees, because the only skin in the game is from the employees. The county commission, the city council, the legislature, the Congress, etc. They sit there, and the only skin in the game they have is the next election and getting someone to hold signs or give them money from their union. And consequently, when I was growing up, people went to work for the government because it was a secure job. They made less money than people in the factory and other things, but not anymore. And it's because of that evolution that takes place. Not that people are bad, it's just the way things work. And it logically, and it doesn't work well for the general taxpayer. But there's so many things I know from local politics. So many people I know that generally, give everybody the benefit. They have good intentions. They want to get in. They want to serve, and obviously got to have an ego to run also, etc. So, but then they get in, and after several months in office, and there's exceptions to this, but I think an awful lot, maybe a majority of people that are elected, they get elected, and then pretty soon, because of everybody they rub shoulders with and work with on a daily basis, are county staff or bureaucrats, what do you want to call them. And I don't mean this to be disparaging about anybody. It's just the way life works. So consequently, after you're there for a while, you become a part of the problem instead of a solution to the problem.
But you bring up a good point. If you have a great foundation, you're not influenced by that.
That's right.
It does depend on the individual's character and their foundational beliefs. And that's why if you're an originalist, every decision you make and your litmus test is how does this compare to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence? And if it at all is opposed to our founders' documents, you rule against it. You just don't do it. And when we're getting back to Congress, when we look at Congress, the issue is that you have a freedom caucus, people that are fighting, they're originalists. They're fighting for our Constitution. They're looking at individual liberties for all Americans. And then you have the John McCains, the Lindsey Grahams, the Mitch McConnells of the world that are moderates to semi-socialists. And they're no different than a Charles Schumer, Dianne Feinstein, or Nancy Pelosi. They speak a little differently. They camouflage it. To me, they're a chameleon, and they all need to be ousted from office. And our tactics as Republicans is horrible. I mean, if you and I walked in there, and you may disagree with what I'm about to say, but if I was advising the Republican the party today, the very first thing I would have everybody in a room, and I'd say, okay, we're changing everything. Our rule books are burned. We're having a rule book burning party, and what we're going to do is we're going to do what they did to Coulter at Berkeley. We're gonna, you know how the socialists in Berkeley said, oh, it's not safe to have a conservative speaker coming to, or was it Ingram that was speaking there? But anyway, a conservative speaker at the campus. It's unsafe, and we need to protect her. So therefore, we're not going to allow her to speak. The college Republicans on campus have found a secure building. Berkeley said, okay, we agree, bring her in. Oh, and what happened to the socialists? They all started showing up and picketing and campaigning. And well, now we feel threatened for our life, even in the secure location. So now we can't have a conservative opinion on campus. Where are the conservatives, and where is our party, the Republican Party, in situations when a socialist is about to speak? We need to stand up. You have an Axelrod or any of those socialists. You stand up and you do the same type of picketing. You don't hurt anybody. You don't have to be violent. You just hold signs, you picket to the point where you pressure the universities to pull back. It's time that we fight fire with fire. That's it.
I do disagree. And I'll tell you why. We have laws. We have a system that should handle this. We shouldn't have to have conservatives or Republicans or whoever you want to go and oppose them and lower themselves to their level of anarchy.
We're losing, Gary.
Well,
we're losing. And it's not anarchy. You have a First Amendment, and you file for that permit. And everybody, even the KKK, Black Panthers, all have a right to.
Listen, personally,
yeah,
I'd love to get sticks and go in there and take them on.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is we have a system of laws that are being ignored. It's being ignored by political leadership, and it's being ignored by some police agencies. And the problem is the laws aren't working. Now, at some point in time, it may come to that. It did back in the 1860s. So I don't know what's going to happen. But I think that, and I get very frustrated when these people and they hurt themselves more than anybody else. In fact, these anarchists, and that's what I'll call them because that's what they are, they're out to, and they're organized. And they want to overthrow and change our form of government. And when that happens, other than the ones that are part of the leadership structure that may get a part of that government, like in Nazi Germany did, the rest of them will be destroyed because they don't want those anarchies in the new system.
But here's the problem. We have been fighting our style of warfare against the socialists and the Democrats for too long. And the results usually are we lose. And to your point, they hurt themselves. No, they don't. They just got a conservative speaker off of campus. And if that speaker could have recruited 5 more people into the party that believes in our foundational principles, how is that a loss? That's a gain for the Republicans. And a loss for the Democrats. The Democrats, we allow them. And the one disconnect, and then I'll turn the floor over to you. The one disconnect is it's a First Amendment issue. If you pull your permit and you want to assemble, you have every single right to assemble. You and I feel the same way about the KKK and the Black Panthers. We feel the same way about both groups. They're both horrible groups, and they should be disbanded. But they do have a First Amendment right to picket and to do whatever they choose as long as they pull permits.
Let's assume that Ann Coulter and the other conservatives would go there and speak.
Yeah.
And these anarchists didn't show up and didn't protest. And like you said, maybe 5 people would be converted. Because of what the anarchists are doing and what's been going on, there's more and more people being converted because they see this and they don't like it.
Right. I understand that. But They're winning. We're losing. We need to take our country back. This is Joseph Revivo. We're about to go on break. We'll be talking about this right after this break.
We'll get into something when I come back.
Clearance
I'll
news,
give you
you
an
have
example.
about 7 minutes.
Thank you, Captain. No, this is good. I like the.
I'll
back
give
and
you,
forth.
when we come back, I'll give you an example of something that happened to me in Ocala and why I did what I did when I was in the police department. So, but no, listen, there's nothing I'd like better than go in there and just absolutely get violent.
Yeah.
But then you do have anarchy, and that's what they want. Then you do have anarchy, and then it's a matter of who's got the strongest word. The only thing I can say is
They just said on the news that this vote today is a moral monstrosity that will be tattooed to Republicans' foreheads.
Oh, for the ACA.
No, for the healthcare.
Yeah, for the Affordable Care Act. Yeah.
I'll tell you,
It's all the
to me, the
brainwashing.
Democrats generally speaking, the leadership. The other thing I'll tell you about Democrats, Republicans, you never see Democrats knocking other Democrats. Republicans do it all the time because there's a percentage of Republicans that actually do have character and character.
Right.
And I think like Lindsey Graham and these people that stand up, but they don't play party politics. And I've been asked several times to run for state rep. I was asked once to run for Congress. I would not do well as state rep, and the reason being is because I don't know the art of compromise. And with a 5-man board, I can argue my point. There's local people there and stuff. But when you get there, everything is so convoluted and departmentalized and all over the place to come to a final conclusion. If you don't know how to play the political, I used to say Wesley Davis. I hold my own against him on the commission. If Wesley and I went to Tallahassee, he'd eat my lunch because he's a political animal.
Yeah.
I love Wesley.
So do I.
I enjoy his company, but I'd never vote for him, and I'd never trust him.
Oh, I do. I trust
You don't
him.
know him.
I do.
Trust
I
me,
know
you
him
don't.
enough.
No, you don't. Trust me.
Wesley
has no scruples except playing the game and winning. And
see,
I
look at the whole political system
let me just say this
as a
Wesley.
Republican. One second, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. My whole thing politically, as I look at the Dems and the Republicans, you bring up a great point. Democrats do not attack fellow Democrats,
Right.
and the Republicans violate Ronald Reagan's 11th Amendment or whatever.
All the time.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. We have to be cognizant of that. We have to start fighting fire with fire if we're going to win. And I'm not saying that we need to be violent. I'm not saying, because I don't agree with that. I'm not saying that any party needs to break the law. The Democrats and the Socialists we do abide by the law, but you pull the proper permits and you just do. If you have enough people there and you could alter the speakers, you could alter the outcome and the recruitment, and you could have a voice on campus. Right now, conservatives have a very tiny voice on campus. Very tiny.
Go back to politics, though.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at, I used to say during the presidential campaign that was going on last year, the most honest person running at that time was Bernie Sanders. I agreed with him on nothing.
Yeah, right.
But at least, but then he was dishonest because he didn't hold his ground
and
run as an independent.
Right.
He ran as a Democrat. Well, he's a registered independent.
Right.
And when I go back to Wesley, like I said, I love Wesley. He's a great guy. And but the problem I have, I'd rather work for and I would vote for somebody that I knew where they stood on the issues and what their philosophy was, and not what their political point of view was on every issue, because it's like, that's what I said. I don't know the art of compromise. Now, I may stand my ground. I may be dead wrong, but at least you know where I stand on an issue and why.
Well, I don't think anybody ever disagrees with an individual position. I think a lot of people, whether conservative or not, looked at Bernie Sanders and say, wow, this guy's a flaming socialist and will have America guaranteed in bankruptcy in a couple of decades, if that. And but he at least tells you what he's going to do. He doesn't say one thing and does another.
If you go back to Argentina, I believe it was, around 1902, 1904, they elected their first Bernie Sanders, total socialist.
Mhm.
And in 4 years, they ran him out of office.
Mhm.
And then they ended up and started going toward a dictatorship.
Mhm.
And it doesn't work.
Mhm.
And what's going on right now in Venezuela? It's well, and the other thing is in our school classes and stuff today, they've gotten away from history. And I believe that the intellectuals that want to change this country, like Bill Ayers and Obama and some of these others, they realize they've got to go to the kids and start educating kids and indoctrinating them. So one of the first things you do is you get rid of history, because if you don't know your history, you don't know your future.
Yeah. I call our educational system today indoctrination camps.
It is. I agree
That's what I
with you.
call.
You were going to announce somebody calling in.
What's that?
You were going to announce call-ins.
Yeah, I'll do that again. It's just beginning. Lately, but he's just not feeling as like he used to feel.
How old is he?
82.
How old?
82.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is all because of a car accident. He got hit. He got rear-ended by a drunk on 60. My mom and my dad.
When did that happen?
March 13th. And my dad has.
Tell you what's worse than drunks right now?
Opioids. Cell phones.
I bet you 1 to 3 times a day I got people cross that center line because they're playing with their cell phones when you're driving around.
I agree. I agree completely.
Worse than drunk. At least with drunks, it's generally between this time and this time. That's the big window. With the cell phones, the window's like this.
My parents got hit at 3:30 in the afternoon from a drunk.
Yeah, but that's an exception to a drunk.
Yeah, it's usually at night,
Cell
on weekends.
phone is,
Yeah, when I was in law enforcement, we always saw the DUIs on Friday, Saturday night.
Yeah.
Usually, or a big football event,
Right.
something like that. Great morning, Vero Beach. This is Joe Semprevivo on the Rhett Palmer Show, and we can thank Mr. B, our engineer, keeping this show running today. Always does a great job, and so thank you, Mr. B. And in studio today, we have Mr. Wheeler. We're shaking it up. Mr. Gary Wheeler, former sheriff, county commissioner, entrepreneur, and we're just having some good old spirited debate and conversation. And if you want to get in on this and you want to take my side and beat up Gary Wheeler, you can call 772-778-3500, or you want to join Gary Wheeler's side and beat up on me, you can call 772-778-3500. And we would love to hear from you and get your voice heard. So, getting back to socialists and their strategy versus our strategy. When you look at Teddy Roosevelt, walks off the carry big stick comment, I think that it should have been walk loudly, carry a bigger stick, and that would be our approach to handling the socialists and the Democrats. Because you touched on something very important during break. I 100% agree with, and that is the Democrats do not beat up on Democrats. Republicans attack Democrats a little bit and beat up on fellow Republicans more.
True.
And when we have a chance to win, we make sure we lose. And we do have a phone call. So, Mr. B, with whom am I speaking? Yes, hi.
Hi, this is Helen Schaefer. How are you?
Oh, great, Helen Schaefer. Fantastic.
I didn't call to beat up on you or anybody else, but I did call to say that I completely agree with Gary Wheeler that, sometimes if you want to get your voice heard, you can just be silent and do something. And I think that's what's happening on the Republican side of things. We are doing something. Those, it's like speak softly and carry that big stick, and that's what's happening. And that's what's happening right now. We aren't losing. We aren't winning. We aren't losing this battle. We're winning with this huge, giant, sort of like intelligent stick that's saying, we're going to rise above this. We're not going to play that same game. No, we're not going to do all that same stuff that they're doing because, eventually, as Gary mentioned earlier, you never know. You may end up with a civil war. We really don't want that. That's not what we want to do. We are making change. We are making progress. It's happening. So let's let that roll.
One thing, Helen, I'd just like to say I agree with you. When you look at that, my opinion again is the fact that if we were out doing the same thing they're doing, then you got people picking sides again because they agree with one or the other. But anybody, I think America in general does not like things that are unfair or rude or nasty, and that's what these anarchists are. And I think it builds the other side, whether you're liberal or conservative. People don't like that, and I think that's why Trump won a lot of the Midwest because of this stuff that's going on.
See, the challenge, Helen, and let me ask you this, because you feel that as Republicans or conservatives, we should not be activists. We should be sitting on our couch contacting.
No, what I'm saying is I don't think we're sitting on our couch. I think we got up. I mean, there's a book called My Mom Got Up Off the Couch, and I think that's
Yep.
exactly what Trump did. I think he got up off the couch and he did something and he's doing it and he's got followers and he's, it's not like that's going to turn that around overnight and that's what he's doing, but he can't do it by, he can't do it by following in the footsteps of the people that have torn this down for years or doing the thing that none of us care for, as Gary Wheeler said. It's like, let's make some progress. Let's not go backwards and turn into Neanderthals. Let's make progress.
So how is, I'm just curious, Helen, how is holding signs being Neanderthals?
What he said. He said, we got to do just what they're doing. That's what you were saying. We got to
Right,
do what they're doing.
right.
So, no, we don't want to follow their lead. No, we don't want to do what they're doing. The whole point is we want to do exactly the opposite of what they're doing.
No, let me tell you why. Let me tell you the total picture. And
Why fuel that fire? Why throw a big match on that fire? Why do that? See, I just care to a lot of times if you've got a screaming kid in the background, they're upset or whatever. And oh my God, my parents go through craziness. But after a while, you just kind of you end up moving on. You've made the decision. You told your child what you need to do, whatever they're doing, and they have to do it. And you set it straight, and you walk away. And you don't go back and start screaming in their face. You let them have their little fit, but you set it down and you made the rules and you move on. And that's what Trump's trying to do. There's a lot of screaming kids going on nowadays.
Oh no, and I think Trump is fantastic for our country. And one of the things Trump is doing, guess what, is the opposite of what we've been doing. Trump is getting in the face of the Democrats. So what our suggestion would be on this conversation is for Trump to back off, because Trump is in the face of the Democrats by getting on Twitter every day and calling them on the carpet. Trump has been doing that. That's one strategy. Yeah, well, and that's what I'm saying.
But it's perfect, but he doesn't have to get a crowd and go pick it and sort of do exactly the same thing they're doing. He's doing his thing his way, and that's awesome. He's
Yeah.
not backing down in any way, shape, or form.
Yep.
I think what
Very sort of calm demeanor, and it's sort of the time. We have the Twitter, we have the social media, we have all of that stuff.
Right.
He's using it. He's utilizing what we have.
Smart. Yeah, smart.
Makes sense.
Well, I
Very
think
smart.
I think an example of what both of you are talking about right now is what the Tea Party started.
Hmm.
They went out, they did hold signs, they did protest, they did show up, they did speak their mind, they had a plan, they knew what they wanted. They didn't burn buildings, they didn't throw Molotov
Of course
cocktails,
not.
they didn't shoot cops, they
Right.
didn't roll over police cars. And
But that's not what I'm talking about.
No,
I'm
but
talking
that-
about political activism.
but-
There's a difference of thugs, Black Lives
No, but-
Matter,
but what you-
rioting and stealing.
but what
That's
you
not
did
what I'm
say,
saying.
but what you did say earlier is we should do what they're doing.
How
And-
many people burned down Berkeley the other day? Don't take out of context what I'm saying. And if I
No, I'm not,
miscommunicated
I'm
that,
not. I
I'll
think
back
you
off.
miscommunicated.
Yeah.
I don't think that was your intent, but that's what you did say.
No. Yeah. And what do you think about this, Helen? What do you think about, as Republicans, not bashing, like what Gary was saying on break, not bashing fellow Republicans? The Democrats, we don't copy the Democrats. The Democrats never bash each other. They all are very supportive. Yeah. Yep.
No, thank you.
Yep. Yep. Hey, thanks a lot, Helen, for calling in. Really appreciate it. Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I was going to give you an example.
Sure.
When I was a young cop in Ocala.
Hmm. Let me just interrupt one second,
okay.
Gary. I want to hear about that. If you're listening in, do what Helen Schaefer just did. Call us at 772-778-3500, 772-778-3500. We love it. That feedback from Helen is awesome. Call in. We'll be right back after this break. See, that's great. I love
you go through the queue for the break, because this way, if she was going on and on, we would have gone right up to news. So
Okay,
I have
gotcha.
that option. So
Gotcha. Thank
that's
you.
good.
Thank you. I love getting like her calling in, Helen calling in, and giving that
Yeah, I think you
feedback.
misspoke. I didn't I mean, I knew what you were saying, but I'm taking you on what you did say. You said we should be like them.
Right.
And we shouldn't
Specifically
be like
to
them.
the Ingram.
Yeah.
We were talking specifically about Berkeley. I wasn't talking about Black Lives Matter because
No, I know.
that's pure criminality.
Berkeley was too. And the
Well,
police weren't doing their job. That was
But they-
anarchy. That was rioting. Now I see they've arrested some people for arson and some of this. It's about
So they caught at Berkeley. They caught building like
You know
just
what?
recently, 2
Yeah.
weeks ago.
I don't know. There's been so much of it going on. But you know, Joseph, it's like raising your children. If you tell one of your kids, don't do this,
Hmm.
and you tell them that over and over and over again, and you don't back it up with some type of discipline, then they're only going to get worse and worse and worse. And at some point in time, you're going to overreact and with your child because you've let it go too far.
Right.
And that's where we are right now in this country. We've let it go way too far, shooting cops and rioting.
yeah.
And it's back. It's similar to the '60s, before your time. But I went through the '60s. In fact, the first riots started in Rochester, New York. And it was the good cops and the good firemen who were getting shot and killed because they cared. But it was total anarchy. I can remember when I heard about MacArthur after World War I, set up a machine gun and actually killed veterans because they were camping out and fighting for their benefits and their wages because the government wasn't producing. Well, they were right to be there, but they got out of hand. It became anarchy. And back then, that's the way they handle it. They don't do it that way today. But quite frankly, somewhere in the middle of that is where we should be.
Right.
And I'm a firm believer. And as I get older,
Mr. Rhett's watching you on Facebook, so I changed the camera and he can get both of your faces in.
Oh.
But anyway, and this example I was going to give about a stop we made, and my philosophy on how we need to deal with these things. And I'm not a patient man, but sometimes it takes decades. It took decades to get us where we are here today, from the 50s and 60s, early 60s, the mid 60s when it started to change.
This is how you're going to be, so you got to sit nice now.
Oh, don't listen to Rhett. I don't want to. I'll sit over there. You can't see me.
And these have to be this way.
Oh,
And
okay,
the reason why is because the pattern of the
Okay.
microphone. So just,
okay.
just talk right into
All
it.
right, I turned it the other because I thought it had to be the other. Okay,
No,
great.
You're all set.
Oh, I don't like that camera on me like that.
Yeah, I mean, my whole approach is our system failed, and Republicans did not elect Donald Trump. Not at all.
Well, that brings up another point. I made a note.
Last spot, then the short rejoin in 5 seconds.
Independents elected Donald Trump in this election cycle. Great morning, Vero Beach. This is Joseph Revivo. We thank the last caller, Helen Schaefer, for calling up and providing her opinion. And in the studio, we have Gary Wheeler, former sheriff, county commissioner, and dear friend. And if you want to call in and get your opinion heard, 772-778-3500. And we'd love to hear what you have to say. So, okay, Sheriff.
Well,
How
no,
about-
I just, my philosophy going back to when I was a young man in Ocala as a police officer.
Mhm.
At about 2 o'clock in the morning, we got a bolo. Look for
Be on the lookout.
Yeah, a known drug dealer. And lo and behold, the car was right in front of me. I pulled him over into the parking lot. I got out and I knew who the kid was. He was in his early 20s. And I said, I got his license and stuff. And I said, can I search your car? He said, no, not without a search warrant. So I had a right to visually search his car without penetrating the interior. And I did a very thorough search with my flashlight, looking to see if I could see anything that would give me cause
Plain view doctrine.
to make an arrest so I could search his car.
Mhm.
Well, there was nothing there. My supervisor showed up, walked over, shined his light in there just for a second, said, what's that? Opened the car door, reached up underneath the seat and pulled out a piece of a telephone cable, which was probably 3-4 inches in diameter and about 2 foot long. It wasn't visible. He was just searching. He looked and pulled it out, and he arrested him for possession of a dangerous weapon because it was a law then. And then he told me to arrest him. And I told my supervisor, no, you arrest him. I'm not going to arrest him. I didn't see it. Of course, he didn't like that. But later, when it came back for trial, the state's attorney's office called me and said, come over for pre-trial. And I said, the only thing I'm going to tell you is you don't want me on the stand because I'm going to say exactly what happened. Ultimately, the charges were thrown out because he didn't have a good case and there were other witnesses and so on and so forth. But the bottom line is, and my philosophy on that is, as long as overzealous cops with good intentions are willing to stick their neck out and violate search and seizure, whether you agree with it or not, and what happens is they keep stepping in front of the general public getting hurt because these are bad laws. The laws never change. When you got a law out there and a police officer sworn to uphold that law, he's got to do what the law says, whether he agrees with it or not. And as long as they are willing to step in front of that because it's a bad law and they don't agree with it or whatever, even if it's justifiable logically, it's wrong. Because then when you get caught doing that, now the police officer is the bad guy when the news media picks it. But when they have bad laws, people have to hurt. The public has to hurt before they'll go and change anything. That's the same thing on the commission with taxes. One of the things Wesley Davis said, one of the smartest things I've heard him say, he said one day at break, he said, it's a lot easier to raise taxes than it is to lower them. And he's right. Because when you raise taxes, nobody complains until after the fact because the people that are paying the taxes are too busy to be at the meetings. But the people that want the giveaway programs, when they find out you're going to cut budgets, they pack the rooms and come in to put pressure on you. So it's
And
just the way
geez,
the system works.
and that works.
Yeah, it's the way the system
So
works.
that's to my original point. You have to be an activist to get things done. If you are not there picketing with, just like the Democrats, for example,
I would say you have to be involved.
yeah, well, I'm saying, like, I'm lumping assembly in with everything. So if you're not there, like they always say, as you know, as an elected official, that the loud minority gets what they want.
Depends on who the elected official is. Some people go by principle and what they believe
Right,
to be correct. Others go by polls and public pressure.
Absolute fair point. Great point. Obama was a public poll person, but when you have somebody of principle, they will unwaver. They don't care what they don't change their position because their litmus test is the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. The problem that we have today is a lack of knowledge about those documents. The Constitution is a moving document. The Bill of Rights are not a moving document, and the issue becomes if we ignore those documents, we have problems today, whether that's in law enforcement, whether that's with federal government, whether that's with state government. It doesn't matter. Now, I'm a huge law enforcement supporter. I personally love our sheriff, Darrell Moore. I don't know what other individuals think, and that's fine. I don't care. I'm a huge
I can
supporter.
tell you what they think.
Yeah, well, they love him because
I'll tell you the way it works. Just basically to hit on this for a second. It's the same thing when I was elected. I said 44% of the people in this county that never saw me, never met me, hated me. 44% of the people that never met me, never talked to me, never saw me on the other side loved me. I said 8% in the middle that pay attention, that decide who's going to win the next election. Not the people that read the newspaper, or watch television or whatever. It's the people that get involved, that they make the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a small percentage. That's why I've always been a big believer in primaries, because most of the people in primaries are better informed than people that vote in general elections. Because in general election, they go to vote for or against the president and then pull the lever. People in primaries generally have an idea what's going on and they vote properly.
See, my whole thing is I'm fed up. I've been very active on campaigns for all different candidates, and I'm fed up sitting there watching this process. We have a Republican president that's shaking things up. We have a Congress that is segmenting and is being divisive against one another, and within our same party, within the Republican Party, you have the McCains and the Lindsey Grahams attacking Donald Trump, attacking the Freedom Caucus. Today you have the Affordable Care Act. We had taxes. This is all the socialist Republicans are saying. Some of the socialist Republicans like McCain, oh no, the Affordable Care Act, we need to keep it. We need to do this. We need to do that. And it's another Obama move. So
well, let me, one of the cute things I find right now with all the pundits, I'm surprised that what I've seen nobody bring this up.
Right.
All of a sudden, the last few weeks, it's about Hillary again and why she lost, because of the Russians, because of WikiLeaks, because of this. And otherwise, Trump couldn't have won. That's all you hear. And that's the whole story, back and forth between the pundits. Well, if Trump couldn't have won with all that help, he didn't have any of that help at all, period, when he beat 17 Republicans. Right. So you're telling me he can't beat one Democrat without that help? And besides that, Hillary brought it on herself with her server and everything else. But that's besides.
It was awesome timing for Donald Trump.
It's just the fact that it bewilders me when I don't see anybody when they're opposing what Hillary's saying, but they don't point out that he just beat 17 of the strongest Republicans in this country. And the time
was perfect for Trump, because people were, just like you and I said, we're both fed up with Democrats and Republicans, because they both say the same thing at different event cycles, different political cycles. 2 years later, when a Republican was completely opposing, now they're completely for the same candidate, except for those with principle. We have already established that.
We tend, and two things. I think somebody said once, all politics are local. And the same thing. If your congressman comes home, most people don't follow what he's doing up there. And most politicians are elected because people like them, not because they're competent or they know what's going on. They may or may not, but people vote for people they like. I have voted for some people in the past that once I got to know them better, and once I knew what their philosophy was, and once I really knew them, I've made some tremendous mistakes in my evaluation of some of the people I've supported. And by the same token, some of the people I opposed, I was wrong, and they were good elected officials. So and that's I know in a campaign I learned early on to make a point. Someone you think would take a bullet for you, so to speak, is working against you, and someone you think would shoot a bullet at you is supporting you. Yeah, you never know. I mean, it's crazy, but it's human nature.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fantastic point. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to touch on some other critical issues. Weigh in 772-778-3500. If you're used to screaming at the television, at the radio, at the newspaper in the mornings, this is your opportunity to get your voice heard. Whether you think we'll agree with you or disagree, it's still your First Amendment. And call in, let your voice be heard.
News cut you.
That's all right. Oh, it's 9:30. Look at that. Let's see, Rhett called. So we,
Is that right?
yeah, Rhett called a minute ago. Let's see what Redsky says.
Well, people that are like my wife, they hate what we're talking about.
Oh, that's what they're saying?
No, I'm just saying if my wife she hates this political talk all the time.
This mid 918, 947, those can be, nothing's going to happen. But this one right here at
No, they're hard.
at 950, 950, whether you're talking or not, they're taking it for news. And the same thing at the 30s.
Okay.
Okay, so those
Yeah,
are hard.
I knew that. I didn't pay attention to that.
Don't even watch that. That's your key.
No. I didn't know it was hard.
Yeah.
Until I looked at that, I was like, uh-oh, it's already 9:30. Oh, it's Rhett. One second. Hey, Mr. Rhett. Hello? Hello, Mayor of the Airwaves. Good. I don't use my cell phone during radio. So when you called me, I couldn't answer it. How you doing? Oh, yeah. Hello, Gary from Mr. Mayor of the Airways. What are your thoughts? Some feedback. God bless you. Uh-huh. Yeah, bless you. Always in trouble, baby. Well, who are you watching? The Washington? Who are you watching? Oh, wow. Good baseball game? Did you do the tour of the White House yet? Nice. Sweet. Good. You going where? Where are you gonna go? You know, if you go into like Tundra, if you go into the Capitol building, go to the first floor, and or the second floor, whatever. But you'll see that's where all the congressmen are at, and you can grab some interviews. You'll see that the radios, the TVs, and all the lights. So you'll see who it is, and you can grab interviews with them. Oh, God. The socialist? Yeah, he's from West Palm. He ran for United States Senate and lost to against Rubio. I think that was Rubio. Yeah, he just lost. Yeah, Murphy was a congressman, and he beat Domino in the last congressional race, I believe. Yeah, he was a business owner, but he was a huge supporter of Obama. He Affordable Care Act, higher taxes, the whole thing. But yeah.
Stand by. This is the last spot. Open is next.
Wow. Hmm. Yeah, you don't have a brain. Yeah, exactly. All right. Yeah.
Headphones on.
There's a Republican club. I would definitely go there. It is really. I think it's called the Capitol Grill. I can't remember. I'll say. Hey, I'll text you. It's worth going there. It is awesome, and you'll see a lot of bigwigs there. Trump may be there. They all go there. Maybe not Trump, but they all go there. Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. They all go there. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. I'll tell you where it's at. Okay.
Hold on.
I gotta go. Bye bye. Great morning, Vero Beach. This is Joe Sempre Vivo filling in for Rhett Palmer. And anyway, we're going to have some fun today. Just spoke to Rhett. And anyway, call in 772-778-3500. 772-778-3500. And if you want to talk about another issue, it could be any issue. Mr. Wheeler and I can be fast on our feet.
Yeah, I have an opinion on everything.
Yeah. And so just go ahead and give us a buzz. We want to hear from you because we love to have you being engaged and find out what's on the top of your mind and what's really bothering you. And we'll love to hear from it. Now, before we went on break, Gary Wheeler was talking about, you were about to mention something, and then we went on break.
You expect me to remember?
You expect me to remember? I have a memory right now of a peanut. But so we were talking about the different things that was going on. Like today's a big day for the Affordable Care Act. They're voting to create a new health care bill.
I only hope they read it before they pass it.
Yeah, right. Not unlike Nancy Pelosi style, right?
Yeah.
What do you think that in DC that it's all strategy and tactics? Every single thing that is done when it comes to passing of a bill, very little, a lot of thought that goes into it, but unfortunately not a lot of focus on content.
I think I'm a majority probably to some degree, but I think there are people there. I think most people, and they should represent their districts, etc. But sometimes what's good for the country may not be good for somebody's district. But they're so afraid of getting losing the election because, in fact, there was a big push on many times when I was involved here and some counties did it, but they went to independent districts. Like we'd have 5 districts in the county. So consequently, if you were in District 1, only District 1 residents could vote for you. I've always opposed that because we're not here for District 1 or District 2 or we're here for Indian River County. So, there's 5 people, you have to live in that district, but I think that's where it should go. I think, and of course, that wouldn't work nationally because thank God for the Electoral College. When our forefathers set this country up, oh my God, what wisdom they had. I had a friend of mine, one of my employees, I said, did you vote in the election? He says, no. I said, why not? He says, because my vote doesn't count. I said, why doesn't your vote count? He said, because of the Electoral College. I said, Brandon, because of the Electoral College, your vote does count.
Yeah.
And they set it up with the president being elected nationally. Then they set it up with 2 senators for each state.
Right.
Then they set it up for each congressional district to have around 700,000 people in it.
Yeah, right.
And so there's such diversity in our elected body. And it's like somebody said, it's like making sausage. But the bottom line is as bad as our government is, I don't think there's a better government any place in the world.
Completely agree. And now, do you feel that or do you know that, or I'd like to get your opinion on at least the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, that the founding fathers are so old and so outdated that it's not relevant to today and it needs to be revised? Or do you feel like that is a document that should stay in perpetuity?
I think it's a document to stay in perpetuity because look at the success we've had with it. Again, if you don't know your history, you don't know your future. And the history of this country has been awesome. Nothing is compared with the United States other than maybe the Roman Empire under totally different circumstances.
Right.
But it's worked. It's worked for what, almost, well, 250 years, 300,
Yeah,
what,
yeah.
it's worked. So why change it? And the thing is again, if you don't have a land of laws, and they should apply to everybody, obviously they don't. If you're rich, if you're powerful, if you're a politician, you get treated differently. But those are human things that happen no matter what you do. But I think we have maybe less of it, I'd like to think, because we aren't a dictatorship or some other type of government. And the other thing, we get into government. One of the other things that frustrates me watching the pundits, they keep talking about how Russia. Russia's interfering in our elections. Oh, I guess we don't do that. We didn't interfere in Israel's
Yeah,
elections.
yeah.
We probably don't have any espionage going on in Russia.
No.
I'm sure that we're pure and clean. Trump got taken to the cleaner. He says, "You think we're so great?" He said, "We kill people too."
Mhm.
And but the news media loves to thump on this because people are ignorant. Not stupid. They're ignorant about the facts and they're ignorant about how real life works.
Okay, I'm gonna do this like a kind of a lightning round and just ask you questions about certain things politically, just to kind of get your opinion and your reasoning behind it. Short answers, maybe 30 seconds each.
I hope I'm capable of that.
Oh, you're completely capable. I spent hours on the phone with you multiple times talking, so I know your capabilities are endless. So, United Nations. Should the United States be a member of the United Nations and pay for membership?
I think it needs revamping, and I think the idea is great, but the system's not working.
Perfect. NATO. Should we be a member and pay?
Absolutely, no question.
Why?
Every great war that's happened in this world since the beginning of time has started in Europe. And the stronger we are and the more we can stay together over there, the more opportunities we have to prevent it from happening. And what Russia has done with Crimea is exactly what Hitler did with Poland.
NAFTA. Good thing, bad thing.
I really don't know enough about it. I know what it basically is. I think it's probably not a good thing because, according to what I hear, we're being taken advantage of. But I don't know. I can't give you an intelligent answer on that.
Building of the wall.
I think, as I perceive the wall, 100%, we need better border security. And there's places where you need a wall. There's places where you need electronic surveillance. There's places where you got cliffs, I guess, and places. Yeah, we need border security. And I cannot understand these people. I've got a cousin that's somewhat left, and she's against the law and stuff. I said, then you actually like people that break the law living by you. Well, no, I don't. Well, I don't know why anybody has a problem with somebody that breaks the law being forgiven without going through even a system. It's just, as long as you tolerate that, you're going to have more of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we be rounding up illegal aliens and sending them back?
We have created this problem by being lenient. And I think that people that are here illegally should be deported. But I think the criteria for that deportation, now there's two parts to this, my opinion again, is did they break the law? I don't care if it's a DUI. I don't care, if it's a burglary or an assault or domestic violence. They should be deported. They've broken the law. If you're here illegally, you ought to be behaving yourself real well. Secondly, because we've allowed this to happen and we've let it happen over the years, so we have many illegal aliens. People that were brought here as children, for instance, that are illegal and didn't get their citizenship. We should find a path to citizenship. But before we find that path, if they break the law, deport them. It's cheaper than putting them in our jails.
Okay, so are illegals taking United States? Are they taking jobs from U.S. citizens?
Well, according to the media, they are, and it's believable. I factually, I don't know, but it certainly makes sense that they are. I've seen things where on the internet, and of course, we all know that's accurate. But the bottom line is when somebody comes over here and they don't have a Social Security card and they work illegally and they take these jobs, and then they get different government subsidies. At the end of the year, there's been articles written and things written, if they're accurate, and that actually at the end of the year, the guy making $60,000 a year compared to an illegal or anybody that's under the system, black market, call it whatever you want, they could make $32,000 a year, but because of the handouts and stuff and not reporting their income, at the end of the year, the guy making $60,000 a year raising a family and making a house payment actually has less expendable income.
Should there be a welfare to work? A welfare recipient, in order to get a check, should be working, and then their money from the federal government fully phased out if they're able to work.
Well, yeah, and my simple explanation earlier is that if you're on welfare and you're able-bodied, let them dig a hole until noon, fill it back in until 4, and if nothing else, it gives them incentive to go find a better job. But I believe in helping people that need help. I don't believe in helping people that are just lazy.
No, I agree too. European Union, good thing, bad thing?
Again, I think the European Union is a lot like the United Nations. It's a good idea, but it's not working.
Does Le Pen win the election in France?
Let's see, is Le Pen the female or the
Yes,
male?
female.
Yeah, okay. I don't know.
She wants to exit the EU if she wins, just like Britain.
I don't know. I'll tell you what, I don't like, and we all are guilty of it, but I don't like voting on single issues. Let me tell you about Trump, if I can diverse for a minute.
Sure.
I was anti-Trump. I did not support him. In fact, I made a statement early on. If Trump won the primary, I'd vote for Hillary. Obviously, that would never happen. But I was so frustrated that Trump would, and every time he talks, I cringe a little bit because he doesn't say it. But the bottom line is after I got over all this prejudice, I looked at the kids he's raised and I looked at his companies.
That's what you told me on the phone.
Yeah, and if he could not select and surround himself with competent people, he couldn't win, or he couldn't run his companies, and he's done that as president of his cabinet.
Couldn't have said it any better. This is Joseph Revivo filling in for Rhett Palmer. See you right after this break. Yeah, I remember you saying that on the phone when we were talking. You said to me, look, because I was on the cruise team, and we were talking, you said, I'm really concerned about Trump. I mean, this guy can't speak. I don't know how this guy could ever win. We are in bad shape. And I completely agreed. And but he said the one positive is you look at his children, and all of them are very successful. Very articulate. Yeah, and so I mean, and then I piggybacked on your comments. And I started saying that to everybody else. The same thing. Well, look at his kids. You can't attack him on his children and what he's done with his children. So if his children are good people, then, he must do a great job. So
I love it when I watch Trump. The way he says things, and he's so much into it, praising himself. I find that, I don't know if I call it
misogynistic.
But you know what? He keeps winning. I mean, just like when he made the comments about Sweden. They come out blasting. The next day they were rioting in Sweden. The guy is he's amazing. It's almost as supernatural what's going on with Trump is supernatural what was going on with Obama. When Obama could come from being a community organizer to president of the United States in several years, and that's the problem with our system today. There's too much media. And people tend to hone in and start following and reading what they agree with rather than getting both sides in. That's why, as disgusting as it is, I watch CNN. I watch NBC. And I fast forward through stuff just like I do with Fox. But none of them are perfect. But at least Fox, I think, is more fair and balanced. CNN is totally left-wing. And there's this dumb broad, what's her name? That exposed Trump's taxes. On CNN,
Oh, was that MSNBC who exposed
No,
it? It
CNN.
was CNN.
She's got a talk program now, but anyway, tall, skinny girl. But anyway,
Not Rachel, because I thought it was Rachel Maddow.
it is. Yeah.
She's MSNBC.
No, she's on CNN.
She moved? Maddow?
Is she on MSP? Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm assuming she. No, I was watching. No, I watched her last night on CNN.
I bet you she got moved. I bet you she's on CNN.
She
now.
was on CNN when she
Very
did the
short hair?
taxing. I don't know. Tall.
Well, you know,
skinny.
it could have been
Rachel
covered.
Maddow's who it is, though. That's
Yeah.
the name.
Yeah, she was an MSNBC person.
Yeah, well, I watched her program on
Right.
CNN last night,
Yeah,
and she was on CNN when she exposed who paid more taxes
what
than
channel is
Hillary
Rachel
Obama.
Maddow on?
Adopt 27 cats and paint your house plaid. When you adopt 27 cats and paint your house plaid,
Here's some information for what channel is Rachel Maddow. According to wikipedia.org, The Rachel Maddow Show is a daily news and opinion television program that airs on MSNBC, running in the 9 p.m. ET time slot. It is hosted by Rachel Maddow, who gained popularity with her frequent appearances as a liberal pundit on various MSNBC programs.
Maybe she went on MSC though.
Or maybe I'm wrong.
Who displayed?
surprised me. I'm wrong a lot.
No, I'm just trying to see.
I swore I was on CNN last night. Maybe it's
It
not.
probably was because she may be
Yeah.
touring to the different networks or
Yeah.
whatever. You know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Um,
But I haven't watched, because I used to like Hannity and Cohen
Last spot, rejoin is next.
right.
because
Stand by.
I like Cohen, but I agreed with Hannity.
Yeah.
Now I don't like Cohen because he's another pundit now that Democrat can do no wrong. They can
He
catch-
died too, right? Of cancer just recently.
Alan Cohen? I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
I don't know. No, I don't know.
I don't think so, but I don't know.
plainsdentalarts.com or call 231-60.
Headphones on.
That's 231-6004. To help with your next dental need, from basic cleaning to dental implants, call Dr. Plain and his friendly staff, offering conscious sedation to overcome.
Is it okay?
That's Dr. Alex Plains, 231-6004.
Great morning, Vero Beach. This is Joe Sempre Vivo filling in for the Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the airwaves. If you have some comments or questions, give us a call at 772-778-3500. 772-778-3500. If you want to talk about anything, politics, business, government, give us a call. And in studio, you will hear from former sheriff, former county commissioner, entrepreneur, Gary Wheeler. And you hear a little bit from myself as well. So anyway, we were doing a 3-minute quick round, and I liked all your answers. I think you were spot on. Kind of absolutely yes to NATO, no to United Nations. EU. I say France should exit. Who knows how Le Pen's going to do, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. I did want to bring up. I want to ask you this. What do you think about like Liam Neeson? I just learned this the other day. Liam Neeson, how he came out really anti-gun, right?
Mhm.
And he, in his movies, Taken 1, Taken 2, Taken 3, most of his movies are all about firearm use.
Well, that's most of the left. It's just like head of Facebook. He's for, he doesn't like the wall.
Oh, Zuckerberg.
He
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
like
yeah.
guns.
Yeah.
Of course, he lives in a world with armed. All these people who want people to take their guns away.
Yeah.
They have armed security.
Yeah, right. That's what I said last
That's what I said. Obama wants to take my guns away, or these Democrats want to take my guns. Take the Secret Service away.
Yeah.
The world would be safer if they take it. There's a place called the Mighty Eight, which is a World War II museum just north of the city of Savannah, right along I-95. There's a big B-52 sitting out there. I'd encourage anybody to go to that museum. It's an excellent museum. When you walk in, though, there's a life-size Kodacolor picture that's absolutely perfect color, everything, with Adolf Hitler standing there with a child's hand on each side of him, that said, you're all going to be safer now because we just took guns away from people.
Yep.
The only difference between that and the pose that Obama had at the time is he had 3 children with him. And you can see what that did. And the bottom line is people just want to hold everything. They want to hold guns responsible. They don't hold knives responsible, hammers responsible, cars responsible, Molotov cocktails.
Yep.
You know, some of those are illegal. But anyway,
Yeah, Molotov cocktails.
yeah. But the bottom line is it's crazy to think that you can't protect yourself.
Right.
And you know, anyway, I get so frustrated because of the ignorance. Again, not stupidity, but ignorance, and the fact that people have such a strong feeling about something, and we all do until it comes home and it affects you.
So you bring up a very interesting point. When we were talking about being a tactician and a strategist in D.C., that plays into why Republicans do what Republicans do. Or like Helen was saying, we're to her point, we're very linear, very logical people, and we want to intellectually handle the situation. On the other side, it's a very emotional argument. So and you said it earlier, you can't convince a socialist of anything because there's no logic. It's all emotion.
That's right.
So when you get a logical person with an emotional person, the message is lost on both sides. You know, we can never understand what they're saying because we're all logic. And we'll apply a logic to their principles and say, wait, that doesn't work. Look, in every country it's failed. And on their side, it's so emotional. You can tell them, well, look at people get stabbed all the time. How come you guys aren't banning firearms or knives? I mean,
if you look at today, and you look at 50, 60 years ago, you'd watch Father Knows Best.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
My 3 sons. Yeah.
They were always in pajamas,
Yeah.
twin beds,
Yeah.
and that was after they started using the same bedroom, because before that, and when you language on television and advertisements on television, and the things that, some of it's good, some of it's bad, but the bottom line is we've gone so far. In fact, yesterday, some guy from Australia commented on something with foul language. I've had some people here locally do the same thing. Yesterday, for the first time, I just learned how to do it, but I blocked this guy. I don't even know who he is. I blocked him because of foul language. And when people post or comment on something I put on there with foul language, I'm from now on, I'm blocking them. And I'll tell you, and listen, I use foul language. Everybody does, and if they say they don't, they're a rarity, if not a liar. But there's a time and a place for everything. Not on the radio, not on television, not on Facebook, and on all these the filthiness of filthy words and stuff and bad jokes, and that we've all participated. But you do it in private, whatever you do. And I'm going to start blocking these people. I don't know who they are, but there's no excuse for. It's almost like they're so ignorant they can't make an argument, so they got to use a whole litany of foul words to make their point.
Yeah.
And you can't have a conversation with those people to begin with.
Right. To curse or not to curse, call 772-778-3500. We want to hear your opinion. Do you feel that social media like Facebook weakens physical relationships with people, like the spudding of a new relationship?
It may create a lot of them too.
Well, because
everything's a two-edged sword.
Everybody refers to people as friends, and
Yeah.
I grew up and my dad said, "In your life."
They do that in the Congress, remember?
Yeah, everybody and my dear friend across the aisle. They can't stand each other, but they actually get along great after politics. But my dad always said, growing up, if you find a true friend, you found a treasure, because they'll be very rare in your lifetime. And because people aren't loyal, and people, just unfortunately aren't as principled as they should be. And so it's hard to find the people like-minded individuals. And you look at, with Facebook, though, that word is used so loosely. Everybody's a friend. I mean, you could have a Nazi that's a friend, and it's horrible. It's so to me, I was just always curious what people thought. Do you feel that it creates more friendships, less friendships? Do you meet people that you've never met before that you wind up meeting face to face, and a new relationship has been created, blossoms? I'm just always curious, and I would love to know if you're listening to this and you have an opinion on this, call us. Call Gary and I at 772-778-3500. We would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this, Gary?
Oh, I don't know. I think you can talk to somebody and like them, and then later on, it may be a week, it may be a month, it may be 5 years, but you find out things about them you don't like.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah.
I kind of take things at face value and make a lot of mistakes in a lot of areas, but we learn from our mistakes. Education's not cheap, and I got my education by making a lot of mistakes instead of spending it at a university.
But you never made those mistakes twice.
Well, some of them I have.
Yeah. So, well, we've really enjoyed hanging out and chatting today.
fun.
I think we're going to 10:30. I think we're forced to. But this is Joe Semprevivo filling in for Rhett Palmer, and in the studio live we have former sheriff, 40 County Commissioner Gary Wheeler.
News Gotcha.
Well, you go till 10:30, huh?
Hey, are we going to 10:30 or 10?
You're going to 10:30.
Oh,
Okay.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Good thing it cut to goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. Oh boy.
It'll be interesting. I wish somebody would call us. I enjoy conversation, debate, etc. But I enjoy it with somebody. Susan Boyd's on my page, and she's a good person.
How do I do this?
She was a school teacher, but if she comments on a lot of things, but she's really getting to the point where she just is so, no matter what I say. I said something the other day about there was a thing I reposted about why is it they say to push one for English, but then you can't understand what the person's saying to you. And I reposted that, and she commented, well, that's racist. And all that. I said, no. And I pointed out, I said, I don't have a problem with people that speak more than one language.
That's a fact.
They're
That's not
better than I
racist.
am.
Yeah.
I don't speak two languages,
Right.
but I do find it frustrating when I can't understand what they're telling me.
Yeah.
And that's no reflection on them. It's just the fact that then she goes back and says, well, that's racist and blah, blah, blah. And she's, anyway, that's the problem with liberals. Everybody's got to call everybody else names and personalize it. And I've defended her several times over the past couple of years with a lot of my friends on Facebook because she's so left and most of my friends are right. And I told her, I said, hey, listen, she's a fine person with character and everything else. She's just a lefty. And now I got a cousin that's a lefty, and she is not a fine person with great character. I mean, she's not a thief or anything, but she's a facade. Her whole life is a facade.
Just an empty shell.
Yeah.
You know, I don't mind people with opposing views. I actually enjoy it because
Me
I
too.
like to learn. You know, what's in their head and why they think the way they think, and to see if you can ever convince them.
I've always said I learn a lot more from people I disagree with than people that agree with me.
It's true.
And, and it's fun. And just like when I was on the commission, I never made decisions on issues that were important because important issues, there's always controversy, and you get to talk to everybody. And what I would do is if you came in with a project, and if I disagreed with whatever it was, I'd tell you right up front, I say, look, Joey, this is where I stand right now. I disagree with you. This is the reason right here. I give you the list of reasons that I disagree with you. And the reason I do that and tell you up front where I really do stand and I point out at this moment, we're going to have a public hearing yet. And my mind's subject to change until that blindsides you. I never did that.
Yeah. Let me ask you that. How do you find out where projects are? Because as a county commissioner, did you have to approve construction projects in the county, or was that P&Z?
Well, it would depend on construction projects, like, developments and things like that. You had to approve them, and there's, because there's a lot to them. But,
so like PUDs, like planned urban developments, you had to approve?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you would work with them, too, to make things better, to get them to participate.
How would I find out if there's going to be a PUD coming up somewhere?
Just call Stan Bolin over at tell him you'd like to know. Because anything comes up like that, it goes to the commission. It either comes through, we have, there's a two-part agenda. There's the consent agenda, which is maybe things like, I don't know, putting a garage door on or a building permit or things that are boilerplate pretty much. And of course, you read through the consent agenda, and that's why at the beginning of the meeting, they'll pull things from the consent agenda. Because even though it's on the consent agenda, it's boilerplate, there's some things that you may have questions about, or somebody else may have questions. So you pull it so you can have public discussion about it. But everything else is brought up and you have public discussion on all of it.
What does Stan do? What's the department?
He's head of development planning, and so Bob Keating he retired. Stan's a good man. I tell you what, Stan Bowling and Jason Brown and the county commission side, two of the finest people. Jeff Smith, your clerk of the court.
Oh, I love Jeff.
Super guy.
I know Jeff. Yeah.
Yeah, I've known him for a long time. And same thing.
Talk about a man of principle.
I've had my disagreements with Carol Jean and Bill Jordan over
Mhm.
here. We've been back and forth. We've been in politics here. Carol Jean, who I supported, but Carol Jean's doing a great job.
Oh, yeah.
Everything I can see, she's doing
Yeah.
a great job. Nolte, I mean, I would have bet money Wesley was going to win that. But I'll tell you, I've worked with David. David's an anomaly, and I'm only as a politician. First, he always looks like a slob. He stands up in public meetings and says things that no intelligent politician would ever say publicly. But I tell you what, he ran a good office. He did a good job. He was honest. I had the greatest respect for him, and he keeps getting reelected because of it.
Yeah.
And I've known David since, I think the first time he ran was probably back in the late 70s or probably the late 70s. Yeah, right around, because I gave donuts to his campaign. I didn't even know him at the time, this man, but David's done an exceptional job, and as far as I'm concerned. And so you've got good representation in this county overall.
Yeah, I think so too. Leslie Swan does a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all of these. I've been very impressed with everyone.
Yeah, it's probably an impossibility. Not to anybody, I've said to them.
Mm-hmm.
And when I retired, Wesley gave me a pocket knife that he had engraved on it. I like you, but that's my favorite saying from Wesley.
Did he really?
Oh, yeah. Wesley's a great guy. I love him.
Yeah.
I like his kids. I like his wife.
He was very. It's funny that you say that. When I looked at the I have to shut that door. When I looked at the campaign, if I said, okay, Lore, landslide.
Who more run against? I don't remember. Oh, yeah, he ran against a couple of people.
Rivers, I think. Yeah.
Well, and I think Chuck Kirby's another one in there.
Oh, the prior one. Prior was Kirby, right? Yeah, this one was, I think it was Lore and Rivers.
Rivers a good guy.
Last
He's a
spot
nice guy,
open is next. Headphones on.
Yeah.
Great morning, Vero Beach. This is Joseph Revivo filling in for Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the airwaves. And today we have in studio former sheriff, former commissioner, entrepreneur, Gary Wheeler. How you doing, great sir?
Good morning. Good morning.
We've been talking about all types of great stuff. I was going to, if you
Some
have...
of it's even been political.
Yeah, can you imagine that? The two of us talking about politics. If you want to call in, bring up a point, your opinion, agree, disagree, feel free to call 772-778-3500. You get your voice heard that way. And so anyway, we were talking about, on break, about what, we briefly mentioned Liam Neeson with the firearms and stuff. How do you handle that? Because I was thinking in my head when I was talking about fighting fire with fire. I was saying the other day, we should approach these socialists that are anti-gun with the firearms in the mainstream media, on Twitter, call them out and say, hey, look, why don't you give up? I appreciate you're anti-gun. You have every right to have your opinion on whatever, but you need to step up and now not do any more movies that have a firearm in them.
Lead by example.
Right? Yeah. How many of those Hollywood socialists would you think would stop doing the movies on principle?
None.
Yeah, I don't think so. Either.
And the other thing, and I don't have it's just that when these people, it's kind of like somebody said, I loved it, a month or two on television, they said, why would anybody listen to people that pretend to be somebody else their whole life
Right.
in the movie?
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, and the thing is it's like somebody said once, and I don't know who said it, but it said that if everybody lived by the standards they set for everybody else, this would be a great world.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's things I disagree with strongly, but I don't want to take rights away from people. It's just like me being a conservative, and I have friends that are left-wing socialists. What I tell people, I only know what I believe. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. Obviously, I believe I'm right because that's what I believe.
Right.
This is what I said earlier about my faith. Obviously, factually, I can't prove factually that God exists. I happen to believe God exists. I believe in God, and I believe in Christ. I believe what I've been taught growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of religions in this world. I don't know who's right, who's wrong. I only know what I believe, and that's what I stand by. And I don't begrudge anybody that believes differently. I may disagree with them, but it's their business. I think one of the big mistakes that's involved in politics in the last few decades that I totally disagree shouldn't be there, and that's this social engineering. You get into gay rights, for instance, and all this stuff. First, it shouldn't be public. It should be private. There shouldn't be discrimination. Listen. It's like a lot of other things in this world that people have a right to be who they are.
Right.
And
right.
I think that when we try to say this is our moral, like the church does, this is our moral ground, and if you don't disagree with that moral ground, then you're a sinner and going to hell. I don't buy that. I think that so many things. One of the things. Hit religion for a second. I guess maybe I shouldn't, but one of the things is the first thing God gave us when He created us was our own free volition to make choices. That's the first thing the church wants to take away from you.
Free will?
Sure. Go to church.
I do go to church.
Yeah. Are you Catholic?
Yeah.
Probably. You look at the Catholics. What are you supposed to do as a Catholic? There's certain things you're not supposed to do, but God, when He created you, He gave you the right to make the choices. But the church, through their teachings, try to say, and you can find inconsistencies, and you can find different points of view. If you're Baptist, you're not supposed to drink. I remember when Baptists, you were supposed to dance. Well, now they all dance. I remember with certain things with the Catholic Church. And I'm no religious scholar or anything else. I'm just generalizing about the way human nature is.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all inconsistent. And I had a college professor in introduction to sociology.
Mm-hmm.
First time I went to college, I was taking a part-time course at Cop and Horseheads. Stand up and introduce yourself. I stood up and said, I'm Gary Wheeler. I'm a police officer in Horseheads. The professor, his name was Gary Bauman. He was getting his PhD that June from Cornell, and he was going to Canada to avoid the draft. This was in the 60s. I started to sit down. He said, wait a minute. Don't sit down. He said, what did you say? You're a cop? Now, this was in the 60s. I said, yes, I'm a police officer. Oh, boy. Anyways, we went on to we became friends by the end of the course. It was Introduction to Sociology. But one of the things he pointed, and I give him credit for this, because he was a left at the time, and actually almost talked me into trying pot. We didn't have pot, but we in discussions, and obviously I didn't, but he said, he got up, and we're talking about Europe and the bubonic plague and how many hundreds of thousands, millions of people died at one of our classes, and he was making jokes about it. Well, the next week in class was about the Vietnam moratorium. At that time, we had about 35,000 people killed, Americans. And he was going on about what a horrible war was, how bad it was, how disgusting it was, how terrible it was. And I raised my hand. I said, I'm curious. I said, last week we were talking about millions of people dying from the bubonic plague, and you were joking about it. I said, this week you're talking about Vietnam and the moratorium, and you think it's the most horrible thing in the world because 35,000 people have been killed. Could it be you know you're not going to get the plague, but you think you might go to Vietnam? And to my surprise, he stopped the class and he said, you're really good at pointing out my inconsistencies. But we're all inconsistent.
Mhm.
Sometimes we don't realize it.
Mhm.
And so I try not to judge harshly. And I could never be a judge because, quite frankly, I have strong opinions about things. But when it comes to lowering the boom, I don't know how good I am at it because I like people, I have compassion for people.
It's not our job
Yeah,
to
it's
judge
not.
people.
Exactly.
And
I'm talking legally.
yeah,
Legally.
right, yeah. Oh, gotcha. Sorry. Yeah. To me, so I got to ask you this too. What about Gorsuch for Supreme Court Justice? How do you think he's going to play out?
Well, I hope he plays out the way it's anticipated he's going to play out as a constitutionalist.
Yeah, but look at Ginsburg. That was a big mistake on Reagan's part.
Look at Roberts.
Yeah, another one.
But people change. I think one of the guys that pointed out the change that we go through in life,
Mhm.
and I love his comment on it, was Winston Churchill. He said, when you're a lad of 20 and you're not a liberal, you have no heart.
Yeah.
When you're a lad of 40 and you're not a conservative, you have no brain.
Yeah.
So we do change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think do you think that because of his age? I mean, Gorsuch is in his 40s.
I think he's 50.
40
or
is-
50.
yeah.
I think. I don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was a great selection, and I think it was a great victory. And obviously, I just, I'm old-fashioned, and plus being in law enforcement, I'm more black and white than a lot of people. I got gray area, but my gray area is smaller than a lot of other people's gray area. I think that if you don't like the laws, change them. Don't ignore them.
Yeah. That's. Well, I mean, we saw what happened in the last administration, and I think that's what the Dems did so beautifully against Republicans. Is everything was Bush's fault for all 8 years, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump is doing a little bit of that now. Pushing to Obama, blaming Obama, but Trump is actually doing something about it. He's reversing the laws that Obama created, and through executive order, while he's waiting for Congress to step up. And this tax bill is a real beautiful thing. His proposal it's moving towards a flat tax. For those of you who love a flat tax, that's what the plan's been all along. They didn't want to create one flat tax. They said they wanted to move it slowly and reduce the brackets. So you look at how many brackets we had 40 years ago, and look at how many brackets we have now. Under Trump's new policy, we'll have 3 tax brackets. The estate tax will go bye-bye. The standard deduction will double for married families. So if you can't itemize, you won't be taking advantage of those extra loopholes, but you'll be getting a double standard deduction, which is fantastic. I think this could be a huge economic stimulator. He's actually doing something to create jobs. If you have an opinion in favor or otherwise, call 772-778-3500. This is Joe Semprevivo, Gary Wheeler on the Rhett Palmer Show.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I think, like they talk about how many trillions of dollars it's going to have to get. So what? We've added it. We keep printing money. We aren't going to be any worse off if it doesn't work than we are right now. So instead of 20 trillion, we owe 30. So what? We print more money. And government likes inflation because it's easier to reevaluate. I mean, there's things that go with it.
You don't think there's any security risk with that debt load?
Sure there is, but it's there. And rather than do nothing, I'd rather gamble. It's like I'm playing blackjack and I'm down $20. Well, I'll put 40 on the next one. Maybe I'll lose 40 now or 60 instead of 20. But at least I got a shot at getting it back.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just.
The problem is we don't control that debt. We don't own that debt. China does.
I know that, but by the same token, if you default on it or what, anyway, I think what Trump will do, and I think it can turn the economy around. But we are so divided in this country. It's hard to get anything going. I had a friend of mine, dear friend of mine. He's gone now, but he owned two antenna companies for TVs. He had about 500 employees, and he sold out to Tandy, one of the board of directors of Tandy.
Tandy Corp?
Yeah.
Wow.
This was back in the mid to late.
Radio Shack.
Yeah. Well, that's not him. I mean, he knew Tandy. Went on the board of directors. They bought his company, and he was making. I think he told me $120,000 a year retainer or whatever you want to call it, salary from Tandy for being on the board of directors. And about 67 or 68, he retired because he made more money retiring than he did working because he was in the 90%, 90%
Tax
tax
bracket.
bracket. And you know, there's places in Sweden I've read where some people pay 110% of their income because, you know, they have investments and so on and so forth. And so our tax structure is down, but it needs to get on lower. The problem is government wastes too much money. I've said over and over and over and over and over, probably the very most frustrating thing that I hated about being a commissioner was I got to take your money and then I got to decide which charity should have it. And it's wrong. You should give to the charity. And the other thing, the evolution. I always talk about evolution. The evolution that's happened over and over and over again, all over this country, probably the world. People come up with a good idea, and they get people behind them, and they start a charity. And it's wonderful, and it's working great, and it's doing great things. And then one by one, the people are in it die, fall off, lose interest. Then what do? They go to the government, say, oh, we got, and then what happens? Bureaucrats run it.
So county commissioner gives money to charities?
Oh, at least, at least $2 million a year. I tried several times to give $1 million a year to United Way, because I used to be on their board, and let them distribute the money because they do their homework. The county commission doesn't.
What right does the county have to give away
All
taxpayer
governments
money?
do it. The city of Vero Beach does, not as much as the county.
I
remember when Pat Lyons was on the county commission, that was the first time they did
Last spot, rejoin us next. Remember, this is a hard break for news at 10:59. I'm sorry, 10:30.
That's correct. Thank you.
Gave $40,000 to more child care centers for migrant workers. It was a good program, but that opened the door, and that, yeah, the county commission gives tons of money every year.
I didn't know that. I don't know why.
At least $2 million.
You know, why aren't people up in arms about that and have that reversed?
People.
This is Joe Ciprivivo filling in for the Rhett Palmer Show. And in studio today, we have former commissioner, former sheriff, entrepreneur, Gary Wheeler. And if you have anything to say, want to contribute to this conversation, call in 778-3500 if you're local. If you're calling from out of state, 772-778-3500. And yeah, you were just telling me about charities and how county and city governments contribute to charities with taxpayer money. I never knew that.
Oh, a lot.
What a disgrace.
Well, and that's what I was telling you, the most frustrating thing I did as a commissioner. I got to tax people, take their money, and then I got to decide who should get their money for charitable or good.
Oh my God.
And I just disagree with people should be making those decisions
Themselves. Yeah.
And also I mentioned the evolution of these things. People come up with a good idea that's very good for the community to help people and do things, and they get people behind them, and they put their own money up, and they start the program, and it's going along wonderful. Then people either die, lose interest, and it starts to fail. Well, once it gets down to the point where it starts to fail, then they go to the government and they say, you know, this is such a good program, and so we need funding. So the government sits there and they start funding these programs.
Now, are these done by grants? When you were in, were there grants?
Yes.
Or so people had to do a grant application and submit, and then
yes,
the five people in commission would have to vote for
yes.
where it would go.
Okay. Yeah, in fact, you know, years ago I was on the United Way board. I don't know how it is now, but I tell you, the local board when I was on, and I assume it still is, very responsible. We gave a lot of money away on United Way at the time. But I'll tell you what, the United Way board held people's feet to the fire, and if you weren't legit, if you didn't do a good job, if you weren't fiscally responsible, you didn't get money from United Way. That's not so much with the county commission. In other words, when they looked at projects to give money to, they did their homework. The commissioners sat there, maybe one or two if they have an interest in it, but the commissioners sat there, and this isn't just here. This is just about
Everywhere,
every place.
yeah.
People come in and they need money for and all these programs likely are the vast majority are the good programs. But the public, the community should be supporting them. They shouldn't be taxing government to give you money. It's like right now, I saw the other day where we give $300 million a year to Hezbollah, basically, in Palestine. Well, this starts someplace with giving money away, and it just grows. Like I said at the beginning of our talks here, everything is an evolution.
Mm-hmm.
You're either going up or you're going down. It's like being in a river. If you're swimming, you're going against the current. If you're floating, you're going with the current. And life is like that. Nobody stands still. Our system changes by the minute.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, that's pretty enlightening to hear that. See, from charitable giving is definitely individualistic. It's your personal preference. Like as me, I am inundated with people that want
Sure. Anybody in
charitable
business.
contributions.
Anybody in business. And that's what it should be. You should be inundated,
Right.
not the
And
government.
I rather, as an individual, be inundated by charities than the government, because the government, it's not in the business of getting our dollars and giving it. Look, you're a welfare recipient mentality if you have a charity and you're getting your money from the government. It's no different than you doing it a charity, an individual, or a business. A business that's taking money from the government is corporate welfare. An individual that's taking money from the government is a social welfare. A charity that is taking money from the government is a welfare recipient as well.
What
All
do you
three
call
of
it
them
when
have.
the government takes money from a business or takes money from, the government wastes.
A silent partner. That's what they
And
are.
let me say this, in my opinion again, Indian River
Sure.
County is one of the most fiscally responsible counties in the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And just one throw out, Joe Baird, for instance, I can say a lot of good things about, and I can say some bad things about. Joe Baird is a man I respect, but I can tell you what, the one good thing, Indian River County would not be in the fiscal shape it's in today if it wasn't for Joe Baird.
Wow.
And I disagree vehemently with his contract. I don't believe when you reach that level, you shouldn't have a contract. Just like when I was sheriff, I worked to get the career service bill passed that protected deputies from the politics of the office. Because before that, sheriff could just walk in and fire anybody for no reason whatsoever. None. Constitutionally, you could do that. They had no rights. They were an appointee. Career service bill stopped that. But I exempted my command staff. And the statewide, we exempted command staff at that point. Because first, I think any CEO should have a right to get his own board, like the president appointing his cabinet. And so if you were a lieutenant and you were going to make captain and be a part of the command staff, you had a choice to make. Do I want to keep my security, or do I want to work at the will of the sheriff? And that's a choice you would make. But it's just like Joe Baird or any county administrator or city manager, in my opinion, should work at the will of the county commissioner, the city council. That's my opinion. I don't believe in job security when you reach a certain level. You produce or you're not there.
That's how all jobs should be. Period. If you produce, if you're a CEO of a corporation, a publicly traded company, you don't produce, you're terminated. And that is true. That should be true for every employee. It should be about production, and nobody should be picked out because they're socialist or a fascist or conservative, whatever. That's their political views. And I'll tell you this: when I was on the campaign trail with Sheriff Lohr, I love this comment that he made to me. He was talking about. I said, "What do you do with deputies that may or may not agree with your politics?" He said, "You know what? They do their job every day, and that's all I care about. I don't care about if they disagree with me. I don't care about if they're politically aligned differently than I am. They do their job, and because of that, I have their back." And I just thought, that was awesome. and maybe I shouldn't say that. I mean, that was that was a private, that wasn't a public speech or anything. It was just a private conversation. But I like that thing. To me, that's a character thing, and it's important. We've really enjoyed. Thank you for taking your time today to be here, Commissioner and
Thank you.
Sheriff.
Enjoyed it.
And thank you for listening out there, making this show possible. I know our advertisers are appreciative, and you've heard all the great ads and all the great people that make this show possible. You are definitely the reason why Rhett goes on air every single day. It's because of you and because of the advertisers. And this is Joe Semprevivo filling in for the mayor of the airwaves. And as Rhett would say, who loves you, baby? Have a great day.
Joseph, enjoyed it.
Loved it, man, as always. We got to do it face to face rather than on the
Yeah.
phone, which is really kind of cool.
There's a garbage thing over there.
Yeah, see, I like that.
Are we still on Facebook?
Yeah, we'll probably, yeah, we are. We'll go out there. I like the more passionate, intense debate that you have, just because it's so difficult when you agree on everything. It's just kind of boring.
Yeah.
You gotta have some sort of dichotomy.
Well, I've got the age where I have opinions. I know what I believe.
Yeah.
I just don't know that I'm right or wrong.
Well, your whole life you should collect data
Yeah.
on what's right, what's wrong,
I
and that
believe
helps shape your opinion.
if you can show something factually,
Yep.
scientifically, you can design them.